So welcome everybody to today's meeting. My name is Xavier Taylor. To officially start the meeting, I would like to note that this meeting will be recorded and shared amongst members for study and self-reflection. In order to have a smooth meeting, here are some ground rules. Put yourself on mute when not speaking. Don't interrupt others whilst they are speaking. Be attentive throughout the meeting and support the speakers with your warm jazz hands. Let's have a great meeting. And now for our club president.
With that, I'll just like to hand it off to Matthew, our Toastmaster. Please, Matthew.
Thank you all for being here. I will be your Toastmaster for today's club. And now I'd like to introduce Alan to state the roles of the grammarian.
Hello. Hello, I am the grammarian for today. As grammarian, it is my job to verify the vernacular used in everybody's speeches, and also to ensure that everybody, one, is using words correctly, and also to keep track of things I like, and two, is not using too many filler words such as or so. It is also my job to introduce the word of the day, which is proselytize, a verb. It means to try to persuade people to join a religion, cause, or group. For example, Eliza is a staunch environmentalist who always feels the need to proselytize to anyone who doesn't drive an electric or hybrid car. Yes, thank you. Back to the Toastmaster.
Thank you, Alan. And now I'd like to introduce the timer, Horace Taylor, to state your role as the timer.
Thank you, and good afternoon, fellow Toastmasters. One of the skills we learn in Toastmasters is how to conduct a meeting within strict time limits. For prepared speeches, typically from 5 to 7 minutes, at the 5-minute mark, my background will turn green. At the 6-minute mark, my background will turn yellow. And at the 7-minute mark, my background will turn red. The speaker should know that the speaker has 30 seconds to conclude his or her remarks at that point. For table topics responses are typically 1 to 2 minutes. At the 1-minute mark, my background will turn green. At the 1.5-minute mark, my background will turn yellow. And at the 2-minute mark, my background will turn red. Table topics responses should realize they have about 15 seconds to wrap up that response. And likewise, for evaluations are typically 2 to 3 minutes. Evaluators will have, at the 2-minute mark, my background will turn green. At the 2.5-minute mark, my background will turn yellow. And at the 3-minute mark, my background will turn red. I will give my timer's report when called upon near the end of the meeting. Back to you, Mr. Toastmaster.
Thank you, Horace Taylor, for that stating your role as the timer. And our first speaker will be Peter Shi. His speech is titled National Merit. Peter is our president of the Memphis Gavel Club, and he has been a consistent member of the club. And now I'd like to introduce Tony Brittenham for an introduction of the speech.
Thank you so much, Toastmaster. I'd like for everyone to give a round of jazz hands for our president and his presentation today on National Merit, which is a corporation that gives scholarships to young college students who are looking to specialize in different fields, from medical devices to literature. Peter is very astute and very well spoken, and we're looking forward to his 5 to 7 minute presentation today on National Merit. And please look up the National Merit Corporation because they have so many interesting subjects that are covered from the students. I have enjoyed just reading it just these few minutes. So please let's welcome with jazz hands to the virtual lectern, our president, Peter Shi.
Hello, everybody. So For us high schoolers, junior and below, there's a really big and really great opportunity that is presented to us. And that opportunity, like Ms. Tony said, is national merit. So you might ask, what is national merit? National merit is given to top scorers in this test called the PSAT. Now, how do you get national merit, of course? National merit is given to the top 1% of students, specifically juniors, in each class. Each class has to, shoot, I can completely ball with that, but whatever. Okay, so the top 1% of students who score in the PSAT is given national merit. Now, of course, I want national merit, and that's why I'm talking about it. But I have seen firsthand what national merit has done for some of my peers. Two of my friends, really close friends, are named Jason and Ray, and they are both national merit semifinalists. Now, who I want to be talking about more is Jason. Now, Jason is a really smart guy. He has, I believe, a 35 ACT, and demonstrates really smart attributes. However, he, in GPA wise, has not been the best. He has struggled in his grades, which results in him being a sub-4 GPA, which is good for the average student, but for higher schools, Ivy Leagues, schools such as one of my top schools, USC, it does not at times make the cut. However, like I said, he is a national merit semifinalist, which has given him the opportunity to get a full ride to many of the really good public schools, which would be hard for him to get into, to get scholarships, let alone get into, if he had not gotten national merit semifinalist. So I want to get national merit, and I have studied really hard for it. I have planned to take, or I am taking a PSAT, practice at PSAT every single week, and I review it. And then the next week I do the same thing. And then the next week I do the same thing. I nail this down constantly, week after week. And how I do this is after school every day, I have schoolwork to get done. So I grudgingly drag myself to the car right after basketball practice, so I'm already tired. I drag myself to the car, I get into the car, I drive all the way to the library because I know I'm not going to get any work if I stay at home. Too many distractions. So, and when I get to the library, I do all my work for all of my AP classes. And if I have time, I do a PSAT section, and hopefully I get time to review it. But I've not been always the hardworking. I've only just recently become a decently hardworking person and a student, and a true student of school and, of course, PSAT. And how I became a decently hardworking student was because one of my friends, Sean, helped me. Now, Sean, you could say, is the perfect student. Took many APs, perfect score in the ACT, perfect score in the SAT, and most importantly, why I brought it up to him, he had a perfect score in the PSAT, a perfect score, which is a 1540, I believe, in the PSAT. So I brought it up to him. I said, "Hey, Sean, do you have any tips for PSAT?" And he was so kind to actually tutor me for free on the PSAT. I thought he was just gonna give me a little tips, but he actually told me there's a library right next to where we were, and we went to the library. Little did I know that we would stay in that library for 4 hours that day. So that day, we finished a whole PSAT test, and we went over the questions. For reference, before on the sophomore year, I got a 1200 on the PSAT, which is well below the national merit line. So we had a lot to get done. And through this one test, I actually jumped up about 200 tests, 200 points, which, if you did not know, is a vast improvement in the PSAT. Of course, it's not where I want to be in national merit wise, but it's an improvement. However, that is not the only lesson, and I could argue it's not the biggest lesson that I learned that day. So I want to show you one of the biggest things that I've learned in my life going in after for what Sean taught me. And he described it to me. I hope y'all can see this board. Can y'all see it? They can't see it? Okay. Well, I'll just try to describe it to you as well as I can. So he showed it to me basically in 2 circles like that. And what he described to me is outside you have your goals. And in the middle, you have your obstacles. Whatever. And then on the inside, you have, of course, your I can't spell today. Identity. This don't worry about my bad writing. But what he's trying to say is that in order to accomplish your goals, and in order to overcome your obstacles, you have to change your identity. And my identity when I was growing up, I've always been the lazy kid. I was always the person in the project who never did any work and just shoved the work to my partners. I was never truly wanting to put in hard work. But after he told me this, I realized that I have to become a true student and I have to turn into a hardworking person in order to get what hardworking people get. I just wanted what they wanted. I just wanted what they got without putting in the work. So now I am less lazy and I put in more work than I've ever before. Thank you.
Thank you, Peter, for that amazing speech. And our next speaker will be Xavier Taylor. His speech is titled "Religion in School is Just My Perspective." Xavier is our current Sergeant at Arms, and he has been a consistent member at Memphis Gavel Club, and he has also been a member of the original Toastmasters Youth Club. And now I'd like to introduce Anna to give an introduction of our speaker, Xavier Taylor.
Thank you, Toastmaster Matthew. Xavier's project is project number 2 of Competent Communicator Manual. And the objectives is to present a talk that is organized in a manner that leads the audience to a clearly defined goal. The speech includes a beginning, a body, and a conclusion, major facts or ideas, and appropriate support material with smooth transitions between the facts and ideas. In addition to his verbal evaluation, I will complete this evaluation form and I will submit to him by the end of the meeting. So that is his speech objectives. Xavier, take it away.
All righty. Thank you for the kind introduction. So today, the point of my speech is not to proselytize anybody. It is simply just my point of view from what little bit of life I've experienced so far. So I would like to start off with school. After a certain point of time at school, you start repeating the same thing over that you did the past year, just more in depth each and each year. Some of the things you learn you may never ever see again in your life. Why are you learning them then? Now, here's what I believe, or here's why I believe that school, to a certain degree or extent, is a scam. After a certain point in school, most of the things that you learn are not things you will ever see again, unless maybe you have kids and you're helping them with homework, right? Like certain things like equations and formulas, like AX is equal to BX squared. Things like that, I don't see anybody using it, especially if they have a normal 9-to-5 job working behind a desk, writing papers. Equations like that, you would never see again, so why learn them, right? Also, I would like to talk about college too. Mainly why I believe that one is kind of a scam. College. To go to a certain college may cost hundreds of thousands of dollars for the same information that you can learn at home. Because we are in the technological era and we have the information right at our fingertips. Now, to add on to that point, since most job interviewers would probably like to see somebody with the experience already there, they would like to see people that have the degree in a certain subject, which to me seems like they won't give, or they won't risk, business risk. They won't take a risk in hiring somebody that doesn't have a degree in a certain subject, but can learn it. For instance, if you say, this person right here doesn't have a degree, and this person here does. Now, if this person can get the experience by working at this job, and say they go way further than this person with a degree would have went in the job. Like say this person over here that doesn't have a degree excels in the job and becomes a head of the company. Meanwhile, this person right here stays at a normal worker level or maybe goes up to a manager. Businesses, as they should take risk on people that don't necessarily have a degree in certain subjects, because all the information that they've gathered, all the information they can get is right here in their hands. School costs a lot of money to learn the exact same thing you can learn online for practically free. So that's why I believe school, to a certain extent, is a scam. Now for religion. In general, my point on religion, this may be strange, but if in religion or in religious documents, it says that a certain being has created you to have your own mind and think how you want to think, why is it that you should have to follow a certain set of rules set by other people? If you were given this mind to think what you want to think, do what you want to do, wouldn't sinning be following somebody else's rules? Like say, take something like cursing, for instance. They say that's a sin, right? Well, why exactly is that a sin? why exactly is this against the being that gave us our mind and body to do what we want to do? If we, for instance, sure, overall that would be bad, but that's what we want to do. That's what you want to do. You're doing what being had in mind for you. They gave you a mind to think for yourself. So if you're following everybody else and not thinking for yourself, like say everybody you know does one thing, that's not necessarily something you want to do, but you just follow them because that's what everybody else does. In my perspective, I believe that would be sinning because you're not thinking for yourself. You're only doing it because other people are doing it, not because you actually want to do something. Like following a certain set of religious rules. But overall, the points I was making here are school, and why I believe they are, to say a certain extent, a scam, with college costing so much money, yet you can get the same information for free. And religion contradicting itself by saying a certain being created you to think for yourself, by yourself, but then also saying you have to follow these set of rules. So technically, you aren't thinking for yourself. You're following somebody else's rules that they've set for you. Now, as time is running short, in closing, I'd like to say, if you have any questions about my 2 points today, feel free to ask after the meeting or if we have time during the meeting. Thank you for listening to my point of view on religion and school. And I'm glad, and I'm hoping I didn't proselytize anybody. Thank you.
Thank you, Xavier Taylor, for that speech. And now we will shift towards our next session, our more fun session, which is the table topic session. And now I'd like to introduce Renee Taylor to lead our table topics session.
Thank you, Mr. President, and greetings, fellow Toastmasters. Now it's time for the second portion of our meeting, our table topics. I will call on any one of you all to answer a question, and you will have to answer it within the time frame. So we're going to check your impromptu speaking abilities. For the first question is, what are your thoughts about the destruction that Hurricane Ian caused? And if you could, what would you do to help those affected by the hurricane? And I would like to present this question to Alan. Is Alan here today?
Thank you.
Yeah.
Hello, could you repeat the question? I remember there were 2 parts.
Okay. What are your thoughts about the destruction that Hurricane Ian caused? And if you could, what would you do to help those affected by the hurricane?
Thank you. Hurricane Ian has recently barreled into the coast of Florida, and I believe it also wrought devastation upon much of the Caribbean. And I frankly think it's a terrible thing that actually isn't getting as much coverage as it should. Personally, maybe this is just personal experience, but I didn't actually know there was a hurricane until very recently. I just thought, I mean, you've heard on the news there's a tropical storm and then they just stop covering it, so you don't get as much coverage as maybe you should. And I believe leads me to my second point, which is if I could do one thing to help, I would spread awareness of, for one, hurricane levels and the actual danger of hurricanes. As with previous hurricanes, I think we've experienced a certain reluctance to obey hurricane warnings, and in general, just a underestimation, that word, of the effects of a hurricane. And also I would spread awareness of the actual devastation of the hurricane, as I've recently found out. Apparently most of Florida is, well, a good portion of Florida is flooded right now, so that's very bad. And I would just want to hope that other people can see the devastation and true turmoil that is happening that we don't even know about. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Wonderful answer. Okay, my next question is, do you think social media helps make or maintain friendships? Why or why not? And I would like to present this question to Jonathan.
Hi, I'm just an observer, but I guess I'll try to answer. Okay, I think social media, wait, the question is, how does social media maintain friendships?
Do you think social media helps make or maintain friendships? Why or why not?
I think social media maintains friendships, makes and maintains friendships. For me, like my grandparents live overseas in China, so we get to communicate with them and other friends across the globe, across like oceans. So we go on Zoom calls and voice chats with them. And it's a great way for our family to communicate with friends and families across the internet.
Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Thank you.
Very good. Okay, my next question, it has two parts, but I'm going to ask the first part of the question to Toastmaster Horace Taylor, and then I would like Toastmaster Don Gray to follow up with the second portion of the question. So here's the question. What do you think are the most important issues facing the United States today? That's the first part of the question for Horace Taylor. And then the second part of the question is, if you were in charge, how would you propose to fix or address the problems and the issues that Toastmaster Horace Taylor mentioned? Okay, so Horace Taylor, what do you think are the most important issues facing the United States today?
Thank you, Madam, for that question. What do I think the most important issue facing the United States today is? I think the fact that we are in an election midterm year, and what that simply means, in general, in the United States, every 4 years, there is a national general election cycle. However, every 2 years, there is also a related, what's called the midterm, as in midway between the general elections. So we are in that course now. In addition to that 2-year and 4-year, there is also this concept of a 6-year and 8-year cycle. As you know, senators are elected for 6 years. Representatives are elected for 2 years. Presidents, on the other hand, are elected for 4 years, and that brings us to where we are today. One of the most important issues facing America is who and where would Floridians now vote in the upcoming election. If we think about it, maybe Florida will be the catalyst for a national online voter capability. The fact that we can spend millions of dollars, billions of dollars transaction throughout the world every day, minute by minute, surely we can vote online. That is my answer. Back to you, madam.
Thank you for your response. Toastmaster Don Gray, for the second part of the question, if you were in charge, how would you propose to fix or address the issue that Toastmaster Horace Taylor mentioned?
Thank you for that question, Toastmaster Renee Taylor. I'm thinking about what Toastmaster Horace Taylor just spoke about. If I was in charge, I would have to be an election official with some power. And we know that most states, that's done by the Secretary of State or the election official in that state. It would be hard for me as one person to control all those states, knowing that the midterm is coming up and there's battles going on between the parties as to who should be in charge. The Senate wants more senators of their party. The House wants more congressmen of their party. It would be hard for me to fix. I can do like most politicians and just tell a story that I would be able to fix it, knowing in my head, I'm just talking. I would make an effort to make sure that the people in Florida who are affected by the hurricane understand now the importance of voting by absentee ballot, voting by mail-in, because most of them won't be able to go to the polls, and because they've lost cars, they're at a greater distance away now. So it's quite a bit to think about in that scenario. But if I had the power to wave my hand, I would put ballot boxes where it would make it easier for the Floridians to come forward to cast their vote, first of all, because they're suffering enough and they still entitled that vote. And right now, they're going to be in a quagmire unless within the next 90 days, things turn around. And thank you for that question. I know it wasn't a true answer, but that is the way I look at it. And I thank you for that question.
Thank you for your response, Toastmaster Gray. My next question, I would like to propose to Toastmaster Michael. What do you think is the most important quality in a teacher and why?
Thank you, Toastmaster Renee Taylor. That is a great question for me because I myself actually greatly rely on teachers for my education. I find that the course material has little relevance when it comes to the class, but if I have a good teacher, I'm able to learn much better than if I had a bad teacher. Now, to me, a good teacher is someone who is serious in class, but also slightly funny. That way, the classroom is enjoyable and it's not so boring as someone who merely reads off notes. Mentioning notes, the teacher must also be able to lecture effectively instead of throwing slideshows at you, because I believe that when I start taking notes, that's when I learn the most. So when they lecture effectively, I'm able to absorb more of the information they are trying to teach me. And of course, it is always best that if I have certain questions, the teacher is available to help, because even though some classes might come easy to me, I've known certain classes that without the help of the teacher, I would have never mastered the topic. Therefore, I do believe that the three qualities important in a teacher are a serious tone, but also an amiable personality, effective lecturing, and the willingness to help the student. Thank you.
Thank you for that awesome response, Michael. My next question I would like to pose to Anson. Oh, we have a teacher visiting. Great. So you heard firsthand what a student thinks good qualities of a teacher is. So this question is for Anson. Do you think homework is beneficial? If so, why? If not, what would you do to replace it?
Thank you for that question. I personally think homework is pretty beneficial because throughout my educational years, I found that teachers don't give enough homework. So now I'm at Y Station, which they do give us homework, which is I think it's a college preparational school. So throughout my years, homework has been a big part of my life. I said that this without homework, there's not enough things you can learn from like by yourself in school. The teachers just help you get through the class, but homework is something you like encompass yourself to do, which is self-beneficial to yourself and also empowers you to get through what you need in life without teachers, so you can be more independent.
Thank you for that response. The next question will go to Toastmaster Tim. If you could wake up tomorrow fluent in 2 other languages, which would you choose and why?
Thank you for the question. If I could wake up tomorrow with 2 languages that I would be able to speak fluently, I would choose, the first one would be Spanish, and the second one, I would say, I feel like Chinese would probably be the second one for me. First off, I think Spanish is a really good language to be fluent in because a lot of the places in the United States are speaking Spanish right now, and it'd be really great to be able to speak and understand a lot of other people. And I'd like to be able to speak Chinese more fluently. So if I were to go to the other side of the world and explore, I could also be able to speak and understand with the people there.
Thank you for that awesome response. The next question will be for Trinity. Trinity, who is someone you look up to at school, and why do you admire them?
Hi, Trinity's microphone doesn't work on her phone. This is her mom. I'm about to let her talk to you guys on my phone.
Oh, okay, thank you.
Okay, wait, what was the question again?
Okay, who do you look up to at school, and why do you admire
I look up to one of my teachers because they help me with my work when I don't understand. It's my reading teacher, but no, my social studies teacher. I look up to him because he helped me when I don't understand. So he helped me understand things I don't like. Since she's social studies, and for me, social studies, I don't really understand it like that. I understand it, but sometimes I get very confused, and I just don't understand it. And he helped me. He get other people to help me who was really good at it, and he's just a really good teacher.
Okay, thank you, Toastmaster Trinity. Now I'm gonna go to one of the adult Toastmasters, Toastmaster Britnum. What are you really passionate about, and what life experiences have you had that have led you to be so passionate about that particular issue?
Thank you, distinguished Toastmaster Renee Taylor. Reading is a passion of mine. I'm thoroughly engrossed in it. Judge Joe Brown had some of his, not inmates, but first offenders come into his courtroom, and he told them that in order for them to receive any lenience, they had to bring him a book report. And the book was Man, Child, and the Promised Land. And he had them come to my bookstore to purchase the book. Well, when they came to purchase the book, what we realized was they couldn't read. So then I had to go to court and tell the judge we needed more time because I had to first teach them to read. So I went to Memphis Literacy Council and became a tutor for adult male readers. And I did get 37 to reading capacity where they were really, really proud. But reading has become, I'm obsessed. I read so much to when I took the test for the city to become a housing inspector, residential and commercial, one of the test questions was, what was a porte-cochere? So I answered it right off the bat. And the interviewer looked at me and said, you weren't supposed to know that. How did you know that? I said, well, porte-cochere is really just a French word, and we call them carports. And he was just indignant that I knew that, but because I'm a reader, I read that not that I had studied French, but I had read enough and did enough etymology on words, the origin of words, to know that porter meant port and cachet meant car. So reading is my passion, and those are just a couple of the reasons why I opened the bookstore for Asian African American readers. And that's what my specialty was. Thank you.
Thank you for that response. Interesting, that very word came up in my lunch yesterday. And I, in fact, didn't know what it was at first. I had to listen and learn by the conversation what it was. So thank you for that. I'm going to pose my last question to Ms. Fan, our teacher. Okay, since you're a teacher, what are a few good qualities that you have noticed amongst your students? And how does that help you teach them better?
For any students, I think I'm always looking for industrious, being hardworking, conscientious. Usually, if a student is hardworking, they have a strong personality on being hardworking, industrious. Also, I think curiosity. If you have a little bit of curiosity, it takes you a long way. And I think if you have curiosity, you will always propel you to ask questions. If you're always curious about things, you always wonder why is this and why is that, instead of being fed by others, and then you have much higher degree of freedom because you are driven by yourself instead of anybody else. I'm always looking for students with a sunshine spirit, that just their smiles and just light up the classroom. And and of course, not everyone can be sunshine every day. And then especially for high school students, sometimes they're very stressful. So I also appreciate the quality that they're being very straightforward. They don't feel the need to hide themselves. They can be just being open up themselves and then share what's on their mind, because there's nothing that to be afraid of, or a bad question or a silly question. We are here to learn. And so I'm always have a open mind. I always encourage them to have an open mind and an open heart. So in Chinese, open heart literally means happy. Because when you open your heart, you're happy.
Awesome. Thank you for that awesome response. Now, I think I've taken up enough time as table topic master, and I would like to turn the virtual lectern back over to our Toastmaster, Matthew Shee.
Thank you, Renee Taylor, for leading our table topics session. And now I'd like to introduce Don Gray as the general evaluator, and he will introduce both our evaluations.
Thank you, Toastmaster Shee. As a general evaluator, my role is to evaluate everything that happens or takes place during the meeting, the club meeting. During the meeting, I take note on all club proceedings such as timeliness, enthusiasm, preparation, organization, and the performance of duty. At the end of the meeting, which we are coming to now, I will conduct the evaluation portion of the meeting, where I will call on my evaluation team of people. My team consists of a speech evaluator, the timer, the art counter, and the grammarian. After that, I would turn report back over to our club president. The meeting today started on time at 3:30 by our sergeant at arms. He explained the meeting etiquette. I did notice that there was no Toastmasters branding in the hybrid meeting background. Our club president was introduced. Our grammarian was introduced, and our timer was introduced. Both explained their duties. The word of the day, which was not explained by the grammarian, but it was located in the chat. At this time, I'd like to introduce evaluator number one. Evaluator number one would be Tony Britton. She will evaluate speaker number one.
Thank you so much. Peter Shee, I am so proud of you. You just did an excellent job. And I just love y'all's hairstyles. Y'all just work that hair. But to get to your speech, PSAT, preliminary, is a practice set for the SAT. And the SAT is just standard aptitude test. And you already know how I feel about aptitude tests based on this the test that the city gave me that they didn't expect me to know, which was unfair. But at any rate, I was astute enough to answer that question. I appreciate Jay and Ray for assisting you in your decision to study. In an African tradition, we call that Kuji Chagulia, which means self-determination. You were determined to become an excellent student, and I guess that's what we look for in our youth. And I'm just glad to know what motivates you. And I've also learned that what really motivates our students are their peers. First, then the school, then their church, and lastly, their parents. Well, we do it just the opposite. We want our children to take on the parents as their role models, which means that we cannot, as one of our poets said, we have no right to be wrong. Judges, teachers, lawyers, we can't afford to be wrong in our assessment and our direction for our children. And you have evidently been born into an environment that's conducive to your success. I love the way you presented it. I'm really proud that this national merit, because I had not looked it up before today, but to look it up and see all of the different accomplishments by all of the youth and the essays they have written just encourages me to go forward now to make sure all the children of Toastmasters use you as an example. I'm gonna make sure that this video goes out. I loved both answers. I'm just in awe of Xavier, but my evaluation for you is kudos. You did an excellent job. Back to you and to the parents. You worked it, Anna. Great job. Back to you, Toastmaster.
Yeah, and now like to introduce Don Gray to introduce our second evaluator, Anna John.
Thank you, Toastmaster. At this time, I'd like to call on evaluator number two to evaluate speaker number one, and that would be Toastmaster Anna.
Thank you, Toastmaster Don Gray. Xavier, wonderful job. The speech objective is to organize your speech, and I think you did an excellent job on that. First, you have a strong beginning. You didn't run around the topic. You went straight. You said school is a scheme and a religion. It instantly brought me into your topic. And then you started explaining. The first, school is a scheme. You have two sub-points to support that. First is never will I use it again. So why do I learn it now? The second is the college at a high cost. Why do I have to spend that much money, right? So you have two good points to support that. And then you very smooth transition. You use the word now, now religion, and you went straight to the second part, which is about religion. So I would say the speech really is to the point, transitioned very smoothly and just knit together. About your content, I'm not politicized by your speech because I think quite opposite. I used to think your way when I was at your age, but now I think opposite. I'm not trying to persuade you to think the way I'm thinking now, but I just think that what you are thinking, it is what a teenager should think now. they think about important questions. So I think you did an excellent job on that. Yeah, you didn't let that question pass. You actually dig into it. Ask question why is halfway to find out a solution. So I really admire you for doing that. The only thing I think you can improve, that's really hard because I think this speech of yours is really, really good. The only thing I think you can improve on is probably the ending. Give a stronger ending. You can encourage the teenagers to think for themselves. So that's my suggestion. But overall, very good job. I look forward to your third speech. Thank you. Back to you, Don.
Thank you, Toastmaster Anna. At this time, I would like to call on the timer for the timer's report. Horace Taylor, Toastmaster Taylor.
Thank you so much. And now for the timer's report. Everybody sit back, hold on. This is gonna take a while. At the top of the hour, we had first speaker, Peter Shi, spoke for 7 minutes, 34 seconds. 34 seconds. You went 4 seconds, a little bit long. Our second speaker, Xavier Taylor, spoke for 8 minutes, 26 seconds. Almost a minute too long, but no problem. We made up for it in the table topics. Now let me run those down. Alan spoke for 1 minute, 33 seconds. Jonathan spoke for 50 seconds. Horace spoke for 2 minutes. Don spoke for 1 minute, 46 seconds. Michael spoke for 1 minute, 15 seconds. Is that Nancy? Or I can't read my own writing. Spoke for 1 minute, 13 seconds. Tim spoke for 1 minute, 8 seconds. Trinity spoke for 1 minute, 6 seconds. Miss Tony Brittenham spoke for 2 minutes, 9 seconds. Our teacher Hyan spoke for 2 minutes and 2 seconds. Back to you, sir.
Thank you for that time report, Toastmaster Taylor. At this time, I'd like to call on our grammarian, Toastmaster Alan G.
Hello, thank you. This is my report, the grammarian report, I think. For Peter, your speech about national merits. I counted only one ah from you, so that's good. And also, I like the vocabulary you used. Consider using less qualitative adverbs and adjectives such as decently and very, because you should believe in yourself and not call yourself a decently good student. Xavier, I counted 2 ahs for you, and you also used the word proselytize twice. Thank you. I like the way you eliminated, I did it myself. I like the way you eliminated using the words ah and by pausing. I think it created a nice effect in drawing the listener in, as well as removing unnecessary words. It's hard. When stating your opinion, I believe, when stating your opinion, it is important to state your opinion and not qualify it with the words I believe, which I just did again. But yeah, the words I believe are probably not necessary for if you're trying to convince. For table topics, I will be quick on this and only call out people who were exceptionally verbose in using the words ah and and the first one, Jonathan, you used the word 5 times. For Horace and Don Gray, you did a good job. I only counted the word 3 times right now. For Michael, you did good. For Anson, I counted it over 5 times. For Tim, you did good. For Trinity, you did good. For Brittenham, you did good. And for Hyan, you did a few us. Thank you. Back to you.
Thank you, Toastmaster. At this time, I would like to evaluate the meeting. As I was saying earlier, of course, the meeting did start on time, so we'll go right on into the table topic session. The table topics today, the table topic master explained the role of table topic, the session itself. She gave us some very thought-provoking questions. She called on non-meeting participants today, which is great. However, she went over the allotted time, which is causing us to run late and closing out our meeting today. I think that should be held about 2 to 3 questions because we were running behind a little bit. I like the way the meeting was conducted today. We had a hybrid meeting in conjunction with the virtual. We had 2 speakers. One was in the virtual and one was in the hybrid setting. And they both did a great job at the spoke. The language was clear, easily to understand. I heard very few ahs or ums. Both speakers, all speakers did a great job today. I would say always try to recognize your guests, no matter who they are. Spend just a second to recognize them. Just call out their name. And if you have time, allow them a second to speak. Our meetings are getting better. They are improving, but we must learn to stay on time and stay within our agenda. Otherwise, with that being said, thank you for the opportunity to serve as your general evaluator. Thank you.
I can't really see, so I don't know what the name is. But thank you all for this amazing meeting. Now I would like to assign the meeting roles for next week. So I'll say I'll take on the role of Toastmaster for next week. Or is there anybody who hasn't done Toastmaster who would like to do Toastmaster? Toastmaster, I believe Xavier is raising his hand, so Xavier can be the Toastmaster for next week. Next, I believe next week is the single speaker, the 12-minute. Do we have one next week? No, we don't have it.
We don't have one next week.
Oh, okay. So this is going to be for the one in 2 weeks. So the one in 2 weeks, is that the one 15-minute speech, the 15-minute speech?
No.
So it's 2 speakers?
2 speakers.
Okay, so,
Yes.
okay, so who would like to be the first speaker for next, in 2 weeks? All right, Michael will be one of the speakers. Who would like to be the second speaker?
Tim, can you do it? Icebreaker.
I don't think Tim wants to do that.
Tim, would you like to do the icebreaker?
Sure, I guess.
Okay,
All right, so Tim
Go
will
for it.
take the really hard job of speaking second. And then now who would like to be, the evaluators. Who would like to be evaluator for the speaker? I'll be evaluator 1. Who would like to be evaluator 2? Oh, Mr. Horace, Toastmaster Horace Terry can be evaluator 2. Now, who would want to be the timer? Preferably someone online so they can do it.
I will serve as your timer.
Thank you, Toastmaster Don Gray, for being the timer. Now, who would like to be the grammarian for 2 weeks in advance? Toastmaster Renee Taylor will be the grammarian for. No. Okay, so Toastmaster Renee Taylor will take on that role of the grammarian. Now, I believe that is. Who would like to be table topics master? Matthew Shee will be table topics master for 2 weeks in advance. Who would like to be the general evaluator? Big boy. So, all right, Alan will be the general evaluator. Yep. And I believe that's all the roles. I believe. Okay, and I would like to take this time to welcome these new guests. Thank you, Trinity. Thank you, Jonathan, and thank you, Tremi. I believe that's the name. Tremi. You should write Trini. Trini. Yes.
Trina to introduce herself a little bit?
I'm already wait.
Okay.
I just want to thank y'all for coming. If you want to, feel free to return at any time. We are always welcoming. So, and thank everyone for coming. And at that, everybody is dismissed. Thank you.
No meeting next week.
I apologize for my overzealous table topic session.
I enjoyed it. Thank you, Renee.
I really enjoyed it. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you, Training, for joining too.